tax bracket, I promise you, we don't need the money. We don't need the money. It's better used elsewhere. And what this is by the way, that's sort of a myth that they are very good at putting forth and very shrewd at putting forth, is that if you vote for the Republican candidate, generally you'll get to keep more of your money. It's not true. It's never been true. I'll get to keep more of my money. Corporate CEOs will get to keep more of their money. Dane Cook will get to keep more of his money, which is troublesome in a number of ways. But not you. And that's the trickle-down theory that went on. I mean, Reagan began it. It went on under Bush, and it will be continued under McCain if he's elected. But the idea is that you give the rich a tax break, you give them more money, they'll spend more money, and as a result, that extra money will trickle down into the economy and benefit everyone. And it doesn't work because it presumes from the start that the rich are going to spend that extra money. But something happens to you when you come into a bunch of money. A little ugly thing goes off in your brain as you start to get accustomed to a certain lifestyle. You don't want to risk that. You become extra cautious about not having to, you don't want to give any of that up. So as a result, even if the wealthy get that tax break, if the rest of the country is in the toilet economy-wise, which it is at the moment, they're not going to spend that extra money. They're going to hang on to it because it's very, very cold out there. And as a result, the philosophy just doesn't work. Now, Barack Obama has a better idea, and it's a pretty simple variance. It just goes from the opposite direction. Let's strengthen our economy and the country from the opposite direction, from the middle class. Obama will provide a tax cut to 95% of working families. We'll invest in new alternative energy sources like solar and wind, a lot of research which is going on here in Ohio, which will create 5 million new jobs. And to me, that's win-win. If you can create new jobs at the same time you are assisting in the healing of the environment, you don't lose. That's win-win. And that's one of the reasons that I have generally voted for Democrats. The environment, I think, is sort of kind of the most important thing in the long term. If that goes south, the economy doesn't matter so much because all our money is on fire. It seems like a more progressive, smarter, more observant of the way things are today and not 50 years ago sort of philosophy, as opposed to continued oil dependence. And then, of course, you have Sarah Palin, who doesn't believe that climate change even exists. I don't want to be wearing a radiation suit to work every day because she didn't agree with 99% of the world's scientists. Barack Obama, I believe, will be an environmentally responsible leader. I don't believe John McCain can make the same claim. There was a general feeling that George Bush won the votes of many Americans because he's the kind of guy you'd like to have a beer with. Or in his case, maybe 12 beers and 6 glasses of Jack Daniels and whatever else. I don't want to have a beer with my president. I don't want my president anywhere near a bar, at least not during the work day. I want him to be at work, making the country safe, making sure that our environment is being protected and healed, that our people are cared for. Most importantly, I want him to stand up and oppose something, even if it's unpopular, if he knows that it's wrong. And this is what Barack Obama did. And as much talk as there is about the surge, about Barack not supporting the surge, as he said during the debate, the war, you act like the war started in 2005. Barack was one of the few people who stood up and said, this is wrong, while he was running for the Senate. Hadn't even been elected yet. Took a very, very unpopular stance. Stood up and said, you know what, guys, this is wrong. Now, to me, that is the mark of a leader. When you know something is not going to be popular, but you know it's right, and you overlook your own personal ambitions and political career and you may think it's unfair to attack things like McCain's age. It's sort of a personal attack. But unfortunately, the fact is, he's 72 years old. If elected, he'll have his finger on the button. My father is 62. We don't let him use the microwave. And as a result, you do have to consider the man's health. You do have to consider the reality that if he doesn't make it through the full term, it's President Sarah Palin. Now, even you gotta say that's nuts. McCain, at least, I disagree with him, but he's a smart guy. At the end of the day, he's a smart guy. I don't think he's the right guy. Sarah Palin, unfortunately, I don't know that you can say the same thing. That to me is an unbelievably irresponsible choice that they've made. You know, this is somebody, if she can't handle herself against Katie Couric, how is she supposed to handle herself against Vladimir Putin? Now, to put things in perspective, I'm going to read a piece of the transcript from the Sarah Palin-Katie Couric interview in the voice of Peter Griffin because it sounds uncomfortably fitting. Katie said, "What other Supreme Court decisions do you disagree with besides Roe v. Wade?"
Well, there's, of course, in the great history of America, there have been rulings that there's never going to be absolute consensus by every American, and there are those issues, again, like Roe v. Wade, where I believe are best held on a state level and addressed there. So, you know, going through the history of America, there would be others, but
that's where that answer ends.
I would think of any, again, that could best be dealt with on a more local level. Maybe I would take issue with, but, you know, as a mayor and as a governor and as a vice president, if I'm so privileged to serve, wouldn't be in a position of changing those things, but in supporting the law of the land as it reads today.
Can you think of any examples besides Roe v. Wade?
Alien versus Predator?
This could be our vice president and possibly our president, and it's like listening to Chevy Chase. Okay, I think that the Supreme Court judges and lovely activist call, and it's kind of back of the history of it, for some amount of time, I think. Sarah Palin is also very pro-life, unless the life in question is that of a wolf running frantically from roaring helicopter automatic weapons fire. Machine gunning animals from the air as a government initiative in Alaska. Isn't that kind of cartoonishly evil? Isn't that something Jafar would do? We want to elect Shredder to the The fact is that your generation is going to be left with some serious problems, and most of them were created by the people who want you to keep them in power in November. Now, Adrian and I are asking you to please not let that happen. Believe me, for me, as a comedy writer, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier to make Family Guy if McCain is elected. I don't want to write those jokes. Do not make me write those jokes. Please. I ask you as a personal favor. Barack Obama is the man who will steer America away from a more of the same philosophy. He will cut middle-class taxes, make health care and education, college education, tuition, affordable to everyone, not just the rich. And he will protect our environment with vigilance. And I advise you to go out, I ask you to go out and exercise the right to vote, which you still have, hasn't been taken away from you yet, and please elect Barack Obama the next president of the